I don't know. Does anyone remember what I taught last week? It was like, or shared last week. It was like the Revolution of the Ordinary. That's a crap name. I liked it last week, but it was something about, in a way, in my mind, it was also kind of about the beginning of the impetus of mind body solutions, like, or a yoga practice, like, or what led to mind body solutions. I don't know if I said that out loud, but like recognizing that our experience is ordinary, and in the ordinary there's actually way more potential in the ordinary, not to overcome but to realize. And that's the impetus of adaptive yoga. It's not just about, it's like, wait, right? I mean, in a way, I feel like the medical model, the rehabilitation model, judged too quickly what the condition of the inner and outer states of my body was, right? and and in a way, most of us, so this is kind of about the history of mind body solutions a little bit. Most of us, I hate to say, we don't have a lot of people like under 18 on this call, or even that many under 30. Not, we're all aging well, right? But we all a little bit older. And so a lot of mind body solutions is kind of recognizing that, no, it's kind of this more mature realization of, no, I have a body, no, my body is that I can live in it differently, all these things that are really good, right? But I woke up this morning thinking about, and I don't know if this is maybe you'll all see this in the work of Mind Body Solutions. It depends on how long it's been. It's no longer, as I've aged, it's no longer the leading thing. And I didn't used to like to admit this going on, but there's also what would be the word? I was talking about revolution, like I remember now last week that like just being in your body and feeling the empty spaces is like a revolution for disability, right? Like being in the body you have, instead of trying to compensate for your body, that's part of the revolution. So I'm remembering more of it. But there's also kind of a subversive, kind of a FU part of mind body solutions. When I was starting, remember I was 25 when I starting yoga, right? And I was like, didn't like what was in front of me. So I remember there have been albums in my life that like for example, I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this. I probably have, but early on, even before I started yoga, um, and it was kind of like as I was switching to a more philosophical bent in my whole life path, right? I remember the song "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd, and I remember really being struck by "Do You Think You Can Tell Heaven from Hell, Blue Sky from Pain?" Do you know this from "Wish You Were Here"? Do you know this one? I trade, I trade. We're fishing. We're in a fishbowl. I traded my dreams for the story. I mean, you should listen to the words of "Wish You Were Here." It's intense, right? It's a wonderful song. It's a beautiful song, and it's got the greatest acoustic guitar opening I think I've ever heard, right? I love the beginning of "Wish You Were Here," right? Another album simultaneously, kind of around that time, but then when I was starting yoga, was "Naked" by the Talking Heads. And there are a couple songs that couple lines, and I was going to make you try to guess these, but no one would ever know these lyrics, right? So like I'm 12, it takes 12 years for me to go like, what the hell was I asked to swallow about what my body is and what's possible, right? Like, what the hell? Okay. And thinking it's not quite right. You've heard all this part of the story before. There's more here. I don't quite get it. I don't know. And that's one of the beginning impulses. But when I was younger, and there's still a little bit of maybe this type of thread in some of our stuff. And I don't know if any of you hear it. I'd be curious if you pick it up. Um, but there was like a part of me that was like, in order to try something new and try to live in the only body I'm ever going to have, in a way that accepts my experience as foundational rather than what I was told about my experience, right? Which is a really not an easy move to make. There was a little bit of this in it for me, right? Like to every. So there's a great song. I remember I used to think about this song a lot. Woke up this morning and there's a circus coming to town. Does that ring a bell for anyone from that album? Probably not, because I'm a weirdo, right? Found out this morning there's a circus coming to town. Let me like tell you this. I'm listening to it right now, so it sounds great to me. They drive in Cadillacs using walkie-talkies and Secret Service, right? Their big top limitation of life and all the flags and microphones, we have to cover our eyes. We play our sideshows and we like the tunnel of love, right? I remember thinking about that about our government. It's a good time as we're watching the election go on right now, right? Like, but I remember thinking about the whole world that was laid out in front of me. It took me 12 years to figure it out. Felt like a circus to me, right? And so there's another song on this album that's long that I was listening to uh on the same album. It's called Nothing But Flowers, right? Which is kind of what was last week, the nice thing. But one of the lines is, there was a shopping mall. Now it's all covered with flowers. You got it. You got it. If this is paradise, I wish I had a lawnmower. Right. And that's kind of what I felt. It's like, wait, this can't be right. Right. This is not the thing that I was being told was the way to go forward. Was like, not only did I miss my body, right? It's like I just got to take a lawnmower to it, right? Like, what the hell? So I started to listen to what was actually happening. But there was a part of it, and I'm curious, does anyone hear the edged kind of I never have ever seen it as anger, but like the kind of in your face type undertone in some of what we've been told. I'm curious if anyone can feel that in some of it, because it's like there was in the beginning. So as we sit here and start to think about centering, thinking about, oh, the nice way of saying it is, and this is where that kind of fu kind of energy to what we're told about our experience, you have to be careful with, and that's what age has shown me to be more careful. But it's like, so I'm just going to sit and start to land here instead of it just being peaceful and wonderful, which it is, which is as I age, it's like, oh, why don't I allow more? Kind of like what Angelique was saying last week about makes her come home to her body, or whatever the words were. Like she practices because, or maybe that was yoga display and transformation. I can't remember. Right? So just start to feel and allow. Last week's classes go, wait, in that empty feeling, I can also lift my chest and start to take up more space. We get to take up space as a revolution, right? as a difference. So start to feel your feet on the floor and the dropping, but then you get to not just push and toil like the world on the outer body tells you. You get to feel your sitting bones extend down from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel, and you get to launch upward through your spine. Don't try to overcome the dropping feeling, but bring the dropping feeling with you, right? So one of the principles of our method is down to go up, right? But both are required. So release again and stop, right? And we're going to start again, but this time trying to enhance the depth of the down realization by centering again, lips together, teeth slightly apart, soften around the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth. So by softening the organs of perception, helping the brain to be slightly more passive, more of our experience, the subtle parts of experience are coming online. I feel like the democratic circus was, I was told to reach for my life. The part of the circus was trying to reach for my life before I actually landed where I was. So I'm getting my brain to go, wait, I don't need to strive yet. I need to allow and make the fall and the rise be the same energy. It helps when I soften the organs of perception and I start to activate my spine. So now, as I'm letting the drop be more subtle, now I'm going to allow the sturdiness of my shape, of my body. Feel the feet on the pedals, the sitting bones, hitting down, the extending of from the inner groin to inner knee, inner heel. Go up through your spine. Broaden across the collarbones. Spread the space between the shoulder blades. Bring your hands into prayer if that works for you. Find your midline. If your hands are in prayer, keel of the hands, spreading the palms, extending the fingers. Make that part of your steeple, which is your spine, but keep everything else. You're slowly, by equalizing the pressure between your hands, you're integrating action into the emptiness. Your hands are a reflection of what's already happening in your spine. You're staying connected to your seat and the feet on the floor. This is the place from which I begin, from which I allow and I engage. Nobody told me about this place in the circus. Good. And then release. Put your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Sternum up to the chin, chin down and over your sternum. Activating. Finding where your strength is, where your grace is. Each nostril, each lung, each sitting bone, each foot. Feel the outline of your body. There's a whole treasure trove in your body showing you. Stay sturdy and feel the whole room. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. What's funny about so many in kind of the circus we all inherited, right? Is that we kind of think authenticity is, and this makes sense too. Authenticity is staying faithful to your beliefs, right? Being authentic to your beliefs. Except what's authenticity before beliefs? What's the experience of actually just being here before your mind starts to tell you how the world goes, right? All right, start to move around a little bit. Some of you already are. You're thinking, oh God, I don't want to think about the circus, and I don't want to think about if this was paradise. I wish I had a lawnmower, right? Except, how do you start to forge new space, right? And how do you make the space revolutionary? Is my space that I'm realizing right now revolutionary only if I can convince everyone else about it? Or is it revolutionary because I know it's revolutionary, right? Because I know it's like counter to the world I was told about. And again, I'm trying to lift up a little bit, trying to move around, kind of going up and down, trying to include, as you know, rhythm is one of the core sensations. So, however, in whatever movements, you can kind of move around and get a sense of deeper rhythm, not just out here. That's another part of the rhythm, right? But the one that includes your spine, right? So again, I'm still trying to wake up a little bit, my body, trying to go, and maybe it is side to side. Maybe it's all these things. Again, I got to be careful again a little bit with too much of the twisting with my abdomen, but it's like so, and I'm bouncing a little bit. I'm remembering that there's bounce. Do you remember as a kid, and unless you never were able to have this experience, but do you remember that impetus? So you're a little kid and you're walking down the road, and all of a sudden, or the sidewalk, hopefully you're not walking in the middle of the road as a little kid, right? All of a sudden you decide to start skipping. Do you remember that impetus, like whatever that was? That thing that was just kind of bursting out of you that made you kind of all of a sudden go, oh, I think I'll skip. But you don't really even think about skipping. You just kind of start skipping. Or maybe you break into a run, but I'm talking about the one that just makes you like, wow, what the heck? Why wouldn't I just like leap through the air a little bit? So that impetus that made you skip as a little kid, right? Like, how do you touch that again? How do you make it not be so heavy here, right? Little kids all of a sudden don't want to sit in the heaviness, right? They're like, ah. So one of the things that I'm trying to, and then spread your legs a little bit. One of the things I'm trying to write about, and you've heard me say very weirdly and ethereally, I'm trying to talk about the importance of time, how it changes when you start to appreciate more time. I'm spreading my legs right now and taking them apart because I like to open up the base of the spine and the groin and get more of my spine involved, right? Um, how appreciating time and expansive time is one of the things that changes our consciousness, right? So appreciation of our ancestors, of history, of sense of place in relationship to time, how old the earth is, for example. Those are all really important. But then I try to talk about how if time does something to your consciousness, which I think it really does, it's one of the best things human beings can do to get out of themselves, and be less self-absorbed, is to appreciate time a little bit more. But is having all of your life, even the times of your life that were hard, that you want to forget, right? Because there's gold in them there time, right? So the impulse to skip to transform, to make it be simple enough between walking and skipping. That's, I'm going back and forth here. That's like, there's an impulse from your past, right? And maybe it wasn't skipping. I don't know what it would be. I mean, obviously there, I'm thinking about people on the call that realize that they never could do the things other people could do. I'm thinking about Amanda, like you were recognizing it early that things didn't work the same. So maybe it's not skipping, but where's the impulse not to just be playful, but I bring that into your yoga pose because you want to do yoga with your youth too, not just with your aging wisdom, right? Good. And then come on back to center. So you're trying to merge times when you're practicing too. And when I remember when my body, I'd never even thought that it could break or do the wrong thing. So I'm going to do dog pose right now for a second. Didn't realize, my God, the space in the vertebrae in my back. Talking about a revolution, right? It's like if I could just get elongate there, right? So I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones. My hands are on the table. It could be on your thighs, but I want you to lean forward a little bit so you can hit your sitting bones down and see the difference between lean back for a second. When I'm straight up and down on my spine and I'm in this position, the gravity, it's harder to extend my spine up. I can hit down through my sitting bones and stretch out to the top of my head, right? I can get that energy. But when I come forward a little bit and I create stability here, right? However you do it, on your legs or whatever, and I'm a little bit forward, this change in relationship to gravity allows for a more active extension of the spine. So I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones, lift up through my chest, right? Broaden across my shoulder blades, broaden across my sacrum, connect from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel, hit down through my feet. But the whole time I'm trying to make more space between my vertebrae. So, and then release for a second. So I want to go through this again. So by the way, there's no one order of operations for any yoga pose. So when I would say to my yoga teacher, I'd go like, hey, is it this or is it that? She'd go try both and then get back to me, right? And then when you try both, you realize that both should be done sometimes, right? So the way I just instructed that version, I'm just going to come forward again, right? Was trying to get my body, especially more on the outside of my body, to extend my spine. So if you hit through the sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee, lift the chest, stretch out to the top of the head, right? Okay, so then I've got all these things going. Then I can even tell if I activate my arms better, if I press down through my index muscle, if I roll the inner upper arm up, that actually makes my chest extend and open, so I can hit down through my sitting bones. All these things are going around the spine. Then I realized, well, if I broaden across my palms, they're all of a sudden, all the instructions are sitting right there, right? And that's one way to do it, right? And then I was saying, when you have all that, then learn to extend your spine, right? Because then when you have the outer body kind of lined up in structure, anything you can do to hit your sitting bones, extend your spine and lengthen your spine up, fills the whole vessel more. Good, and then release. I'm going really fast, but let me try to say it again. This is like so by going through the outside, like signposts or tent pegs of the pose, right? So getting them in, activating into my brain, right? Then when I go to extend my spine from inside to out or um, extend it directly, that extension naturally feeds the whole body because you already have the tent pegs or the signposts already in place, right? You can do it just the opposite way. You can extend the spine and then learn the outer body, but we're going to try to make the I'm using all these mixed metaphors, the catching basin with the outer body and then open the inner body, right? To do it. Um, so again, you're going to do some version of dog pose, whether it's on the table or not. and you're trying to set the conditions to catch the new energy of when you make space between the vertebrae. Space between the vertebrae is a freaking revolution, right? So again, I've got my hands on the table. I got my sitting bones in my feet. I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones. And rather than just extend out to the top of my head, which is what I would have had to done if I was straight up and down, now it's easier for me to broaden my shoulders, right? Increase the space between my shoulder blades, hit down more actively between my shoulder blades. And then I can get the energy to go out the top of my head even better. I'm going to reground my hands, right? I'm going to feel my feet. And now I'm going to do an inward action of separating my sitting bones from my lower abdomen. And I'm going to start to extend my spine. And as I do, I'm looking to catch all that in my outer body. So I'm recognizing the relationship between space in my spine and activation in my limbs. And I'm taking a couple breaths because breaths also make space in your spine. Good, and then release. So that last one, I know I got something going extra in my abdomen because it made me just belch up my peanut butter toast. Got a little bit much going on right there. So I gotta like sit and refrain for a second. Not in a bad way. It's like, boy, I must have, and I can also feel like there's a change. I don't know if any of you, when you do it that intense, does anyone feel that extra loud hum inside? Like the kind of like, oh, that was kind of hard. Was that pose kind of hard for everybody? Was it active? Put up your thumb. Was that an active pose? Yeah. That's like, that's the revolution, right? Like that's what the a PT would look at that and go, oh yeah, that's kind of an exercise and it's blah 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 blah. And I know lightning just struck, right? Like I know, like, wait, there's a whole other part of me here that I want to expose and learn to breathe into. Take your arms wide. Right? So you're gonna have your arms wide and be bigger in space. This is a dumb one for me to do. It's a good one for you to do though. Right? Hit down, and I'm gonna try to add more structure again. Ooh, I'm gonna take my arms down. You keep your arms up, right? What I want to do, take your arms down now. What I want to do is something similar again. What we're gonna try to do is create the outside of the pose, the tent pegs, right? The signposts, whatever. And then once you're there, we're going to activate closer into the spine, trying to catch the change of energy with the rest of the body, right? So, all right. So I'm right away, like this is, I didn't even notice what I was doing. I lifted up and around because I don't want to be stuck in my seat. If I'm compressing into my seat, I'm not going to feel this as much. So I'm getting a little bit of that skipping energy, right? Before I even do the pose. Because all things being equal, gravity is going to make me fall into my spine, right? So I'm getting kind of ready to actually do this, right? So now I'm going to take my arms wide, but now I'm going to try to like stay strong as I do it. I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to feel where I am in space. Ground the sitting bones, inhale and lift up, right? Now, I don't want to hold this too long here because my arm will fall off, but like extend through the pinky finger, pull back with the bicep, make length from the side armpit, from the side waist to the side armpit, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee, down to the inner heel. Hit down through the sitting bones and go out through the top of your head, right? And then take your arms down. So that instruction, hit down through your sitting bones, extend out the outside of your head. That's kind of what we're going to do really, really strong on the next rotation through this. And that was like the outer body. So I just instructed the very top, the very bottom, and the very top. I don't want this last time when you do that, I want you to go closer into your spine to activate it and then catch it with down to the sitting bones and out to the top of your head. Right? How you come into a pose is going to change the amount of prana that comes through your body. And there is not one way to do it. There isn't an order of operations that's always better, right? Okay, so now I'm going to ground here. So now I'm going to add even more. Now I'm going to sit in Tadasana. All of a sudden you start to realize why a centering start to something. So I'm going to be sitting in my chair here. I'm going to extend my arms straight down, right? I'm going to do this. And I'm going to find the core channel. I'm going to let it come up across, and I'm going to start to squeeze the muscle into the bone of my upper arm. Feel the inside of my sideways, feel where my arm is, lift under my collarbones. Because as I do this, I can extend from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel better. Holy cow, was all this going on? Yes, it was. Though, even when you do it without this awareness, right? You just weren't aware of it, right? So now I'm going to get the Tadasana, the mid channel. I'm going to make sure when I go to lift my arms now, right? Because once I want it to come out of my core, inhale, lift your arms up. Now I'm going to make sure my arms are on board. I'm going to drop my shoulder blades a little bit. I'm going to hit the tricep into the bone, right? Stretch out my fingertip, pull back with my bicep. Now, instead of just hitting from the sitting bones to the top of my head, I'm going to try to extend my whole spine, go up the vertebrae, boop, 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 like you're getting it pulled. And I'm going to try to catch it, that change in my outer body. Breathe. Ooh, this is not easy, for me at least. Good, and then release. Whew, take your arms down. Got a little bit of extra sweat coming through me, got that heat coming out of my body, right? So again, I just watch a couple of you want to jiggle right away, because when you work that hard, you know you got in too small of a room to work that hard. So you want to keep it light again. Yep. So I'm going to jiggle around a little bit. More intensity is not our best teacher. So the idea of making sure the energy stays a little bit lighter for our purposes, you can learn shit by actually just driving and grinding through space, right? It's going to cost you though, right? Especially you and me, right? All right, so now I'm going to sit up straight and tall. So this time we're going to do something weird, because I like doing weird shit, right? Because that's what I like doing, right? Because I kind of want to go, there's way more than the democratic circus, but so I'm going to now find Tadasana again. Not that, by the way, I don't want to say democratic circus. I think democracy is our best, our best hope. So let's just call it the circus. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did again. Now this is going to be, so I'm thinking about Pat, thinking about our ongoing 3-year discussion about what's imagination and what's real, right? So I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to get into Tadasana. I'm going to make sure I feel this core channel. So I'm putting my knees a little bit together because I want that inside edge. So in a way, so of course, you know, I like metaphors, right? In a way, for me, there was a huge, talking about a revolution, right? There's a huge revolution, right? When I realized that there was a sensation change between letting my thighs roll out, which is what a beginner does, anyone, whether disabled or not, right, in Dandasana, that there was a revolution change just by doing this. Getting my femur bones more in line with my hips. There's a sensation change, right? That, like, as opposed to doing this and pretending it or like not noticing that this matters, right? And it's a subtle thing that the world's not going to recognize, right? But remember, I'm saying, so you think you can tell heaven from hell, right? Remember, I've got that youthful energy when this all started. So here, I'm going to like use this to find the core channel, to find up through the core, right? Because I'm going to want to take my arms wide without moving my arms wide. I'm going to practice now some weird shit, right? Because I want to start practicing that my spine is expressing out into space with or without my limbs there. And that the opportunities of my spine, and I gotta tell you, part of this, I know this because working with people with amputation, they start to experience stuff that they didn't know was possible. And if I ever go to, hey, that's just your imagination, I've kind of slapped them in the face, right? It's like, no, it's not your imagination. Your spine is emanating, right? And I think that's why I've said this before, like some of the the representations of some of the Hindu deities have multiple arms, right? So find your midline, in order to extend your arms, do it simultaneously with hitting down through your sitting bones, making space in your spine, broadening between the shoulder blades, the collarbones, hit down through your spines to extend your arms straight out, even though they're not going straight out, right? Straight out. So I don't know about you, but when I try to extend my arms straight out from my spine, I start to feel my spine even more. What the hell? Someone's going to tell me this isn't real? Really? If this was paradise, I want a lawnmower because it's real and I'm going to breathe. I'm extending into space from my midline in more directions. Good, and then release. A couple of the other ways I've tried to so you're gonna go over to one side and switch gravity, right? And again, get the spine active. Some I've taught lots of times, right? Right, so of course there's the one where we're leaned over, and if we're just doing Trikonasana too fast, I'm into my tree over here, right? My plant, you take the arm up, right? But take it down. I want to do it from the spine first now. Well, actually, if I'm consistent with the class, I'm not going to do it from the spine, except I want to do it from the spine first. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to activate my sitting bones, lift through my chest, feel my feet on the pedals, right? Extend my spine. And once I get this bubbling, I'm going to inhale and take my arm up. So my spine is extending through my arm, not my arm extending my spine. Now, as I'm here, I got to keep hitting down through my sitting bones and feeling my legs. Good, and then release. In terms of orders of operation, I said I want my spine to extend my arm. You could have your arm extend your spine on another day that you're practicing, right? So you're going to go the other way. So you should try both. So now I already know I'm going to want my spine to be expressed through the movement of my arm. So I'm grounding here, I'm peeling here. I'm using the change of gravity. I'm getting my spine activated. As my spine activates, I go down through my legs again. If I go down through my legs as an activation of my spine, I'm going back and forth in direction. So by the time I'm moving it's coming out of my spine, right? Because I'm activated through my core. So I can tell you, it isn't just people that sit in wheelchairs that forget they have a torso and they forget to activate their spine. I see it in traditional students all the time, or when I was teaching traditional students, right? And I'm activating here, and then come on down. So now, of course, I want to retool and get the lighter space, because when I'm forced into seeing this level of consciousness, when I practice this way, I get kind of into a small room and my teeth start to grind a little bit. So I'm reminding myself to stay. Remember, there's rhythm, there's all these things that are waiting for me to use, right? So this time we're going to do the same thing, but we're not going to take the arm up, but we're going to extend the arm anyway. Going to go over. So for me, this way of practicing, because of how sore my shoulder is, I do like to take my arm physically up once in a while, but it's better for me right now because of the nerve stuff going on. For me to do this pose, extend my spine, hit down through my legs, find Tadasana, find all the things, right? Extend my spine, and then extend my arm out through my shoulder without raising my shoulder. And then, just because I'm doing it so well, and it's making me smile, I'm going to do it anyway and go, oh yeah, there's my arm. And part of me likes it better this way. I feel like it's better yoga this way. So I'm going to go back to the way I like it. You get to choose what works better for you right now. Good, and then release. Now, when I go the other way, because it's less sore, I'm probably gonna like it better if my arm goes out on my shoulder, right? So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna make sure I got my base really well, right? I'm keeping my own midline by grabbing my knee, my leg here. It's because that's what I intuitively do, because I know I'm trying to feed my spine, right? And so I'm gonna start to extend my spine. And rather than take the arm up, I'm gonna do everything else and let the energy go out this way. And then once I feel that, if I want to, I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go back to here again to make my point in the class that your spine is going, and you have multiple sets of arms. And I'm breathing, and I'm doing the whole pose. It doesn't seem like it, but I'm working here. It's hard to talk and do it, actually. Good, and then release. And I'm going to go back again, because again, there's a price to be paid working that deeply. For me, at least. Going back and forth again. Taking my legs wide, changing my bases, right? Changing my bases. BASES, not BASIS, right? So I'm gonna now I'm gonna recognize not just that my legs wide, but I'm in a different universe when my base of my spine is making two sides of a triangle. And I'm going to go back and forth and watch how gravity, when I switch on my sitting bones, and the forward on my sitting bones, energy goes out my knees, and the weight for some of you goes down your legs. So does mine. I just don't feel it that way, right? So now I'm going to think, okay, so now that's what's happening on my outer body. I can feel that. Now I'm going to try to streamline and intensify that movement of energy that's coming by gravity by making sure I'm activating my spine. So I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones. I'm going to go up through my chest. Then I'm going to come down. And I'm going to notice the quality difference of what comes through my legs. And then back. So I don't know about you, but well, I do know, but you would not be wrong if you disagreed, right? But when you just come back and forth and watch the gravity shift, it's nice, but when you actually ground, so now I'm even grabbing my foot pedals, I'm activating my arms, I'm getting my spine more alert. And when I come down this way, it's louder. I feel more. And I'm gonna breathe there and go, oh, talking about a revolution. Right? Good. And then release. And then bring the legs back together. The times I've, over the years, tried to demonstrate, a lot of times when I'd be brought into rehab institutes, right? And I'd be working in front of a group of PTs and OTs, let's say, and working with somebody, because they'd want to see it in action. And I'd start doing stuff like this. I wouldn't do it. In fact, I do it better now because the pandemic's made me teach better in a chair, right? Taught me how to teach better in a chair. Going back and forth still. So it would be always without fail, the person in the chair. I'm going back and forth because I'm still moving here. I'd go back and forth. I'd work with the student or this patient, right? And all of a sudden it'd be like, oh my God, I can feel this. I do feel that. Like there is a difference, right? and it would be, and they, smiles would break across their face, and they'd realize that there's a way for them to come home, even though it's not like the way home used to be, that more of their body was still there, especially if you're like a spinal cord injured person, right? Often they try to force it back into the other world, their normal world, to take your legs wide again. But it's amazing, this level of awareness that you and I are taking for granted, right, is somehow not happening in rehab. They're not taking the time to learn stuff. So I'm going to push down here. So I'm forearming, I'm pushing, and I'm getting my spine to, I would say explode, but let's say it's skip off my sitting bones. I'm going to bounce a little bit because skipping's got that rhythm in it. So I'm separating. So now when I'm pushing down here, right? When I'm pushing down here and I'm extending up, I'm watching how it goes out through each knee better, right? So I like that. I like it very much. I'm going to breathe here. So now I'm activating my spine. Then, because I really like the grounding energy here, I'm going to extend out through my shoulders without moving my arms. Because once I go to move my arms, I collapse, right? So I'm doing this, extending out through my shoulders, taking up more space, taking my head into alignment if I'm paying attention. Damn, I like this one. Good, and then release. Whew. Again, I can tell that went pretty deep. So I'm pausing just a little bit. Then I'm gonna go the other way. Right? So I'm down, I'm finding earth here. I'm pushing earth here. I'm lifting up, but I'm doing it instead of with explosion. I'm doing it with the skipping energy, right? And then I'm opening my chest, because I wouldn't, if you do this with a closed chest, you lose the earth. So now I got to redo it because to show you, I just screwed it up. Right here, extend, right? And now I'm going to take that arm up without taking the arm out. And if you want to take the arm up, go ahead. If you can do it without losing balance and collapsing your whole pose, do it. I'm not gonna. It'll be less yoga for me. Good, and then release. Come back to center. Forward and back. But now you're doing it with your legs. You're not in the moon of Tadasana, right? Because you're more open. You've got more air and more space. Because now you're changing gravity and back bend a little bit, but your base isn't Tadasana, right? It's different. Now, I'm gonna come back to Tadasana or to where my legs are together and do the same thing and go forward and back and notice the difference, because it is different, right? I just have to pay attention. I get all the spaces. The one thing about sitting in a wheelchair all the time or being more sedentary, and I don't want you to do this, I'm just showing you, is you forget to open up. You forget that this energy just kind of waits for you. What's great is that when you do stuff like this enough, you can open up without spreading your legs. You can do it by rocking here a little bit. Like I can open up that energy that would usually require my legs wide just by doing a little bit of this and remembering that right at any moment I could break into a skip. I could, it's all right here. And my God, I get so far in my head, I'm forgetting to skip right through my day, or to know that a skip is right next to me. Skipping is right there. I like that. So now I'm going to sit and get still. And before I start going, look at the clock here. Yeah. More and more to Shavasana, I'm going to sit here and acknowledge and see and remember and time travel that I was just skipping. And I'm going to let all of that come with me. So typically when we move towards Shavasana, you think of yourself as shedding all the activity to quiet you more. If your mind to quiet down, you have to shed stuff. But maybe you can bring it all with you into Shavasana, which is what happens after a class. I mean, you're tired, it happens anyway, but maybe you could do it and sit here and go, okay, before I start going really inward, I'm going to feel all the movements of the class. I'm going to let my mind feel all of it. I can tell I've been locking my neck, so I'm turning my head here because I think in some of this class I was holding my neck funny. So I'm moving that around. Maybe you want to too. I'm making sure I let my head be in Shavasana because I was doing something funny. So now I'm going to start to be still. So the other day, I mean, you can do Shavasana through movement or whatever. We talked about that. You don't always have to be still if you feel trapped, right? But then there's sometimes you should get into the position you're going to be in and just stop moving, even if it's not perfect. Even if you think there's, because seeing the imperfection is your mind's trick. So as I stop moving and I try to open my pores to feel the support of the chair, trying to make sure I'm in alignment. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Are you better at letting your empty spaces be supported? That's part of the purpose of Shavasana. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. It solves the problem. It's your body that affords you the opportunity of living. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them again if that helps to do a reboot. Does me sometimes. And then open them again. A couple of things that I was thinking about. We had gone, didn't want to say anymore, but one of the things I was thinking about or feeling at Shavasana, wasn't thinking. I had quite a cold this morning, so I apologize. Um, is um, is that in Shavasana, sometimes I get this glimpse of I am here, it is there, and all is one. But don't, when you, that for me, that practice was not a thought. It was like an acknowledgement. So the idea, we hear this line over and over, that all is one, all is interconnected, and it becomes kind of an empty series of words. But it's actually an experience. And it's something to allow, right? Like to allow it. So it's cool. It's a good thing. And I do think that the potential inside of us, without it sounding too barfy, is not only a revolution, and I admire the younger version of me that was, looking for a lawnmower. If they were handing me paradise, I wanted a lawnmower, right? And that when I see the empty space in me as flowers, without being too barfy, right? That's a better world. And it doesn't, whatever that world is, doesn't mean it has to conform to what, like me walking or me this or me that. I just have to know it, right? That it's like, and let it in, right? And letting something, a truth in, especially when you're suffering on all these other levels and, whatever's going on in your life, but to let in the fact that there's a place before everything that's freaking awesome, right? And it's a sensation. All right, everybody, that's enough barf for today. Um, Throwing up in the back of my mouth, but I actually believe it, for God's sakes. Hands together. And I came to it with a little bit of FU and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Right? Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.